Pull out of the pits and into the fast lane for Mobil 1 Motorsport News. Each week it fills up with a high-octane mix of motorsport news from all the major motor events from all over the world. Put yourself in pole position by watching the fastest show on wheels. Mobil 1 Motorsport News, Thursday night at 7, 6 UK on Eurosport. Driving a Top Fuel Dragster is 2 races in 1. First, you must win the race against a flash of light. Then, with 4,000 horsepower at your back, you must beat your opponent. 5 seconds later, win or lose, your race is run.
At this point in any season of IHRA drag racing competition, the main concern is the war for the World Championship, the points races. And here at the Tostiasti Spumani Empire Nationals, the first event at this track in some 18 years, the points races are the main stories in every one of our pro categories. In Top Fuel Eliminator, Jack Ostrander has a chance to move into the World Championship points lead because Richard Holcomb's Top Fuel dragster from Georgia could not appear due to engine damage done in his runner-up finish in St. Louis. In Pro Stock Eliminator, it's another war. Tommy Mooney, the chassis builder, Harold Denton, Tim Neighbors, they're all involved in that. And in Nitro Funny Car Eliminator, less than 1 round of competition separates the man who finished number 2 last year, Doc Holliday, from the man who dominated the beginning of this season, Chuck Etchells, in his brand new Future Force Trans Am. That's the main concern, the battle for the World Championship. And whoever comes out on top of this one will lead going into the last stretch. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Brett. Here are the weather conditions we talked about. The temperature expected to get cooler as the evening goes on. 65% humidity, 50% chance of rain, and we've had sprinkles on and off all weekend. Now, compounding the problems for the engine tuners, not only do they have a raw racetrack to deal with, they also had much lower temperatures on Saturday night with a rainstorm approaching, and that means higher air pressures as well. In Pro Stock, in the left lane, Ricky Smith, a 5-time IHRA world champion, set low ET of the meet.
Low ET indeed, number 1 qualifier with a 7.30 by a bunch. Number 2 was only a 7.36.
And as far as top speed goes, Billy Ewing from Georgia way got his Oldsmobile up and running.
Watch the big 723 cubic inch Olds down on the top end. He cranks out a 189.75 mile per hour speed.
On to Top Fuel, where in the left lane, Eddie the Thrill Hill makes his first IHRA appearance in 2 years, but in the right lane, Michael Brotherton got up to top speed.
Brotherton turned in a very impressive 266.39 to have the top speed in qualifying.
And a good reaction time as well. Brotherton having no problems with his very green racetrack, nor is the man in the right-hand lane here, Gene Snow, the 2-time Top Fuel world champion and number 1 qualifier here.
The Snowman's back on top on the IHRA trail, a 5.19 a lap time to set a new track record and low ET in the event.
Now, unfortunately, shortly after, the thunder of nitro-burning engines was replaced by Mother Nature's own. Look at the storm that moved over New York International Raceway Park.
Well, the Nitro Funny Cars didn't get their opportunity to run in the Nichols Night of Fire. As this mess started moving in, it had torrential downpours, hail, and everything, Bob.
But it cleared off in time for eliminations. Our first quarterfinal action will be in Pro Stock, and our first matchup is a good one. The numbers 2 and 3 performers from 1989, Tim Neighbors in his Lawrenceville, Georgia-based machine, up against Snellville, Georgia's pride, Billy Ewing.
It'll be Oldsmobile against Camaro in this all-Georgia battle as Tim Neighbors, who's on a roll, would like to drop Billy Ewing off.
Neighbors comes into this event number 3 in points thus far in 1989. Ewing has slipped to number 5, but both ran strongly in the first round. A 7:45 for Neighbors, 7:47 for Billy Ewing.
Both cars staging very carefully. Now they're ready, Bob.
Neighbors in the left lane gets a little to the driver's right, but gets it straightened up. They are side by side. This is a drag race.
Oh, what a drag race. Tim Neighbors pulls it out with a 737, 188 miles per hour. We've got to look one more time at how close this was right at the finish line.
You've had some close races in your life. 737 for you, 738 for Billy Ewing. The TSI timing computer shows a 0.000 win margin, less than 1,000th of a second.
I knew he was right there. I seen him all the way. I was just hoping it would be me, but I didn't know until we got here.
It will probably be the closest race we've ever had on IHRA ESPN coverage. It was less than 1,000th, like I said.
It was a real good run. It's hard to outrun, Billy.
That puts you in the semifinals, and I know this is a big one in points, so good luck.
Thank you very much.
Our next matchup, we'll introduce the dominator in Pro Stock this year, Tommy Mooney, in the near lane from Shelby, North Carolina, up against Virginia's Jim Yates.
This race is really important, and Yates has broken. Tommy Mooney will move into the semifinals. He's already leading the points, so that becomes a very important break. Tommy Mooney with a 7:35.
Now let's find out who he will meet in the semifinals. We will see Doug Kirk from Kermit, West Virginia, against Harold Denton out of Middlesex, North Carolina, in the Party Time Pontiac.
Well, this is the world's fastest Pontiac. This guy can fly. He's capable of really running with that huge cubic inch engine in there. Denton is number 2 in the points. So it's very, very important that he move into the semifinals so that he can stay right up with Mooney on a round-for-round basis.
It won't be easy. Kirk is number 4 in points, and Denton gets a horrible start. Kirk just moves away and extends his margin to the finish.
Well, look at the reaction time on Harold Denton. A 7:52 sounds more like an ET, so this will be an easy win for Kirk, almost a gift from Denton.
Our next matchup will be Ricky Smith, the 5-time world champion and the busiest man at the track.
Well, if last night's performance in the ARP Quick 8 is any indication for Ricky, I think STP will stay with him. He managed to step up and win, Bob.
First driver to qualify number 1 in 2 classes. It'll be Smith on the left, Carlton Phillips on the right, and Phillips red light. Ricky Smith gets the bye run here.
You saw that telltale red light. I don't know if Ricky knows he red lighted or not. He's running it all the way through. Look at the ET, a 7:29, 189 miles per hour for Ricky Smith. He was really on a run.
Well, despite the fact that Carlton Phillips was the number 9 qualifier, he had to try to beat the tree, and he missed it by a little bit. Here's Ricky.
Yeah, it's just another day at work for Ricky Smith, I know. 7:30 in qualifying, 7:30 in the first round. Now you decided to really intimidate people and go a 7:29, 189. New track record, the first 7:20 run since Darlington.
Well, I didn't see him red light, and I said, man, I just kept pulling levers, and I said, boy, if he didn't red light, I ain't beat. Now,
He did take a shot on the tree and then missed, obviously.
just luckily for me, because he was out there, and I just kept pulling levers, and I said, I hope he red lighted. It made it. This car is just making a good run.
And it better have some more. In the next run, Smith will go up against Tim Neighbors. Smith will have lane choice by virtue of the better ET, and Tommy Mooney will have lane choice for his semifinal run against Doug Kirk. Bob Barshett, Ted Jones, and Brett Kepner with you from North Central New York State, where the nitro-powered funny cars are about to take to the track. These are the guys who missed out on their final round of qualifying due to a big storm during the Nichols Night of Fire, and as a result, they've missed an opportunity for precious tuning on this very green racetrack. Our first matchup will be Richard Hartman, whose car was burned to the ground at Bristol, Tennessee this year, and the fans are just delighted to have him back. He'll be going up against the son and the father-son Litton family. This is Steve Litton.
Well, Richard Hartman, a relatively inexperienced driver, and now he's got more experience, at least in firefighting, in the Ray Vestas, Nick Bonafonte-owned Pontiac. He'll be staging the car up very carefully. 2 very inexperienced drivers, and this matchup is from the middle of the field. These are the number 4 and 5 qualifiers. So really, anybody could win this round, Bob.
And Hartman desperately needs to. Litton, ranked number 8 in points coming in. Hartman is unranked after missing 2 IHRA national events. So there's plenty on the line here for 2 great young funny car drivers. Litton in the left lane, Hartman in the right lane. Litton stages first. Both cars get away cleanly, but Litton's got a big problem. He is sideways on the racetrack.
Well, a very easy win for Richard Hartman, 5.68, but we've got to have a look at the driving job done right there by Steve Litton. The young, inexperienced driver doesn't look like he has too much inexperience to me. He finally shut it down, and how he kept it out of the guardrail, I don't know.
Great driving job for Steve Litton. Hartman moves on, and we come up with our next pairing. The Black Magic Machine of D.A. Santucci from Glen Willard, Pennsylvania, up against Jerry Caminito from Jackson, New Jersey.
Well, Caminito has them all talking to themselves up here in New York. He turned in a brilliant 567 to pick up the number 1 qualifying position this weekend. So everybody's wondering, what's Jerry doing? What's his new secret? He's got that Blue Thunder really huffing.
The number 1 qualifier against the number 8 qualifier. Santucci, about the only guy that was happy to see that storm move in last night, gets a little squirrely off the line, but Caminito breaks something at mid-track, and Santucci takes the win.
Oh, what a Cinderella win. D.A. Santucci, a 5.99, but I'll guarantee you he can take it any way he'll get it.
Take another look. How many times can the lead change in a racetrack? Santucci got the whole shot. Caminito passed him. Caminito broke. Santucci wins the race.
Well, fortunately, Dominic Santucci stayed in it and didn't lift after he went up in smoke, which is unusual. Meanwhile, Brett has him down on top end.
Oh, Brett, you know, that was given to me. Jerry's a heck of a running competitor, and he should have had that race. Something happened to his car.
It sounded like a supercharger explosion for me.
Yeah, well, I think we just can get this track figured out. We'll be all right. The car's been running real well, and we just got to get it figured out. I think Jerry gave me that one. I got to go thank him.
Well, while he does that, we'll move on to the next round. Here is Chuck Etchels from Woodstock, Connecticut. One of the great names in the class this year. Already once a winner, getting a lot of smoke out the front of that car during the burnout. In the left lane is Al Hoffman from Umatilla, Florida.
Well, I'll assure you, Chuck Etchels, who is number 2 in the points, really needs to take this win right now. He actually has his eye on that World Championship. He's making a serious bid for it on the I-3 circuit this year. So this crew's going to be all business right now.
And very careful about their burnouts. As we mentioned at the top of the show, there is not a lot of rubber down on the track. You saw Al Hoffman's car. He'll be on the left. Etchels on the right. Etchels stages first. Deep staged he did. Both cars away, and Hoffman smokes right off the pad.
Hoffman shuts it down. Etchels will stand in it to try and get lane choice. He comes up with a 5.78. Not bad, Bob.
So Etchels will move on to the next round. And we'll find out who he will meet in that next round now. As Tom Hoover comes smoking off the line in his Nitro Funny car, he'll be going up against fellow Minnesotan Doc Holliday, the number 1 points man in Funny Car.
Well, Etchels won his round. The doctor has to know it. He was sitting back there in the staging lane ready. So the pressure is on the doctor right now to maintain that points lead. He's got to match him round for round.
Doc Holliday, the winner of the last IHRA round, the Gateway Nationals, and this is going to be one of the most colorful matchups we've seen. 2 incredibly beautiful race cars.
Both cars are pulling up staged and ready to go right now.
Very quick start and very even. Looked like Hoover maybe got the jump, but Doc Holliday puts a fender in front of him and loses the advantage. It's Hoover.
Wow. What a close race. Doc Holliday lost that on reaction time. He went a 5.72. Hoover wins it with a 5.74, 259 miles per hour. And we'll look one more time just to show you how close it was.
11 thousandths of a second between you at the finish line, the big upset.
That was close. Doc and I are great pals and old friends, and we always put an old funny car fight at each other. And
A crosstown Minneapolis rivalry.
south side, north side. Here we go. It's my turn, Doc.
I'll tell you this, you just opened a big door for Chuck Etchels. They were less than a round apart in points. So now Etchels moves into the leads, and that's who you've got next round.
It'll be a great race. I'm looking forward to it.
See you then.
Thank you.
And you better believe his old buddy Doc Holliday is going to be pulling for Tom Hoover, who has lane choice over Chuck Etchels in the semis. Richard Hartman will have lane choice over D.A. Santucci. Our first quarterfinal matchup in Top Fuel will be Paul Smith from Putnam, Connecticut, racing a car fielded by funny car driver Chuck Etchels. He'll be going up against the number 4 man in points, Michael Brotherton from Kingston, North Carolina.
Well, Brotherton and Smith very close in the points. Brotherton should win this if you look at their qualifying. Brotherton qualified with a 5.34. Smith could only muster up a 5.41, but he's a part of that important Chuck Etchels team. And you can bet the Etchels team has been working on this thing overnight.
And Brotherton has not had an easy time of it here. He had to go through the bleach blocks and do 2 burnouts in qualifying in order to get his tires up to temperature. He's really been struggling with the combination on this very raw racetrack. There's a close look at him with the shades.
And we saw previous to that, Paul Smith pointing down something was wrong, something that he did not like inside that engine compartment. Very quickly, I think Chuck Etchels himself ran over there to take a look, but they're both going to stage. Evidently, they're ready to race, Bob.
And now the psych job of staging. Each car inching forward in turns. They both stage. They're away. Good start. Little tire smoke from the left lane of Smith's car, but he holds his advantage to the finish.
Paul Smith pulls out the win with a 5.30, 256 miles per hour. He's picked it up about a tenth of a second over his original qualifying time.
ETs have been hard to come by for the Top Fuelers. But the speeds are creeping up and the times are creeping down. Our next matchup will be Wayne Bailey, number 7 in points, going up against the Thrill, Eddie Hill from Wichita Falls, Texas, making his first IHRA appearance since 1988.
Eddie Hill holds the current IHRA speed record, which still remains unbroken at 288 miles per hour.
Another good pair of starts, but Bailey quickly loses traction. Eddie, the Thrill Hill, pulls it off.
Eddie with a 525, 265 miles per hour. He's got that thing flying.
Now here's a bird's eye look at the burnout for John Diesel Carey. You've heard of onboard cameras. This is on the wing, looking down on the car, the engine, the driver, and even those two big slicks at the bottom of your picture.
Carey backing the car up now. This gives you some idea of what the driver might be seeing, although he's down behind that motor, but you can see how long that top fuel car appears.
And here is his opponent, Fred Farndon from Columbus, Ohio. Number 3 in points is Carey. Number 6 is Farndon.
Or as Don Garland would say when he talks on the PA at these events, this is Freddie Farndon driving Fred Pfeiffer's car number 444.
Traditional big bicycle wheel style front ends on these cars. Carey the last to stage. They're away, and Farndon breaks right off the line. Carey will have a walkover.
John Carey moves into that next round with a 529, 260 miles per hour, so he's all set up to meet Mr. Hill, who ran a 525.
And he fires a shot across Hill's bow with a 5:13 reaction time. That's the best we've seen in quarterfinal action in Top Fuel thus far. Here's another look at the left lane as parts come flying off of Fred Farndon's car right at the pad. We'll move on now to our 4th and final quarterfinal matchup. This is the Snowman, the 2-time IHRA world champion, Gene Snow, who has really given the field a warning. And here's his problem with Jack Ostrander. In the other lane, puts his hands palms up. He may have a problem.
He's trying to communicate with hand signals with his crew chief. Something was wrong, and he was asking what's going on, but at any rate, looks like they're getting ready to stage. Now, Gene Snow, in this particular instance, can also be known as the spoiler, because Jack Ostrander is number 2 in the points.
And you can tell Ostrander was right. He knew he had a problem. It is Snow in a walkover.
Gene Snow, look at the T522, 267.54, and he's still not going to cut anybody any slack. Bobby ran a 5:09 reaction time.
Well, Snow really has this dialed in, 1/10 of a second faster than anybody in the field. He'll have lane choice over Paul Smith in the semis. Eddie Hill will have lane choice against John Carey.
Many designers and engineers see it as a goal. We see it as a tool. A creative tool enabling us to shape our dreams into realities. We are Toyota, and we build some of the world's most advanced automobiles, like the MR2, the Celica, and the Previa. These are not dream cars for tomorrow. They're cars people can own and drive today. The spirit of creativity, that's Toyota's leading edge.
The greatest hockey league in the world, the NHL. Every Monday night, watch the best of the action from the previous week. Keep up with the world's fastest game tonight at 9, HUK on Eurosport.
We are ready for semifinal action, and we will begin with Pro Stock. Our first matchup will be Tommy Mooney, the undisputed dominator in the class with 2 event victories thus far, going up against Doug Kirk.
Well, Kirk running a 689 cubic inch mountain motor in his Chevrolet, but that's not really a mountain motor by today's standards. A mountain motor by today's standards is one like Tommy Mooney has. That's 742 cubic inches of Oldsmobile power.
Little impromptu ventilation there for Doug Kirk. That's why they call these cars door slammers. A dry hop for Tommy Mooney, seeking his 3rd final round appearance in 4 races thus far this year. Once he's gotten to the finals, he has not been beaten. There is Doug Kirk looking for his first final.
Kirk ran a 7:38 in the most previous round. Mooney ran a 7:35. So Mooney has a slight edge right here.
Both cars away cleanly. Mooney with a little wheel hop there as he shifts gears. Side by side, great race, but it's Mooney at the finish.
Tommy Mooney picking up an easy victory, 7:34 as he actually sped up just a little bit, 188.20 miles per hour. He's into the final one more time.
Here's another look at the Williford Farms Pontiac of Tommy Mooney, who just gets a car length at the very finish and then talked with Brett.
And I was getting scared of Harold. He was closing in on me fast. What I got?
7:34, a 7:42 for Kirk, and he left on you. He made it close.
Well, I know Ricky, you know, he's running good, but I just give it my best shot. That's all we can do.
We'll see what he runs, and you'll give it your best shot, I know. We'll see you there.
That's it.
And so North Carolina will be represented in one half of the finals. Let's see whether this man from King, North Carolina, Ricky Smith, can make it an all North Carolina final.
Well, you could tell down on top end, Tommy Mooney was standing trying to see all the way back up 5,000 feet to this point at the starting line because he's very concerned with what Ricky Smith does. He knows that Ricky could conceivably still catch him this year in that points chase.
But he's going to have to knock off this man, Tim Neighbors from Lawrenceville, Georgia, who beat the fast runner of the meet, Billy Ewing, in the quarterfinals, and now he'll go up against the five-time world champion. A grudge match between the number 1 and number 2 men in points in the '89 season.
Ricky has a psych job on Neighbors. He ran a 7:29 the most previous round. Neighbors only ran a 7:37.
Oh, but Neighbors gets the whole shot. He lays the line job on the five-time world champion. He's got a fender on him and holds it to the end.
Ricky Smith turned in a great 7:29, but all for naught with a 5:56 reaction. Timmy Neighbors had a 4:78.
Well, buddy, you have had one heck of a day, but you have just done the impossible. Your 7:36 beat Mr. Holeshot himself, who ran 7:29.
I knew he was right there all the way down. I had to leave to beat him. And I just
14 thousandths in light.
I had to be quiet. I knew I had to do something to get there before he did.
There are not many people on this planet who can say they've holeshot Ricky Smith by any margin, but you just got it.
That was just luck. I mean, he's good. He's hard to beat.
Well, Neighbors has climbed one mountain in Ricky Smith. He's got a bigger one ahead of him, though. Tommy Mooney has never lost in a final. He's going into his third this year. We move on now to semifinal action in Nitro Funny Cars. And our first matchup will be Richard Hartman, coming back with the Ray Vestos Pontiac, going up against the Cinderella story of the meet thus far, D.A. Santucci.
Well, it's Cinderella story indeed. Bob Santucci shouldn't even be here. He turned in a 5:99, which is not that impressive against Jerry Caminito in the first round. But Caminito had problems, lifted a blower, slowed to a 6:42, and that's drag racing.
Hartman, the young driver from California, in the seat offered by Nitro Nick Bonafanti. Coming back, he has missed 2 national events after burning the car to the ground in Bristol, Tennessee. Santucci was on the bubble when the rain struck on Saturday night during the Nichols Night of Fire, so he got into the field while faster cars waited behind him.
You can bet Dominic Santucci was probably driving a funny car before Richard Hartman had his driver's license.
A 30-year career for the man in the left lane, D.A. Santucci, hoping to make his first Nitro Funny Car final. They're away cleanly. Nice, even start. Hazing the tires in the right lane. Hartman keeps his foot in it, but he lost precious ground, and Santucci moves on.
Santucci is into the final. What a Cinderella story. A 5:68, 262, and that's the story right there. Richard Hartman up in smoke at mid-track. Santucci drove it right on through the lights.
Need to move, buddy. You need to move. We did it. Oh, excuse me, Brett. Excuse me.
It's okay. You've been
That one. Oh, Brett, they didn't give me that one. I'm going to say it now. Jerry gave me the other one. But, Brett, I earned that.
I grant you that you've been winning racing since 1968. But look at it this way. A 5:68 equals the quickest run of the day, especially against the man who ran it. But 262 miles an hour.
Great.
This thing is still running big speed, and that's a new track speed record.
That's great. Oh, it is? All right. I'm tickled pickle.
Well, when a man spends more than 20 years in funny cars, 30 years in drag racing, I guess he deserves a final every now and then. Now, here is our other matchup. It'll be Tom Hoover in the Showtime Nitro Funny Car going up against Chuck Etchels.
Well, you can bet Etchels, who is really making a charge on the points, number 2 in the points, would like to stop D.A. Santucci, who is upset-minded. But first he has to get past Tom Hoover, and that could be no easy task. Hoover's a very consistent runner and has a lot more experience than Chuck Etchels does behind the wheel of one of these floppers.
And remember, Hoover beat Doc Holliday in the first round. Holliday, the number 1 man in points, lost that position to Etchels. Etchels gets out quickly. Hoover needs to win to get his man Holliday back up front, but it won't happen.
Oh, it was Etchels wire-to-wire, a 568, 258 miles per hour. Etchels is into the final against upset-minded Santucci.
And the fans love it. By 5/1,000ths of a second, D.A. Santucci will march on with lane choice against Chuck Etchels in the finals. But we've got semifinal action in Top Fuel coming up now, where we will see Eddie the Thrill Hill in the bright yellow rail going up against Diesel John Kerry.
John Kerry cranked out a 5:29 in the most previous round. Eddie Hill had a 5:25. And let's take a look one more time at something like John Kerry might see with this in-car camera.
Or you might see if you were a bug plastered against the bottom of that wing, standing more than 8 feet above the ground.
Well, they're having some last-minute adjustments. Buzzy Carter looking down inside there at the clutch can on Eddie Hill's car. Kerry, meanwhile, being motioned up to the starting line area. Looks like that car's 3 miles long, doesn't it?
That's right, Ted. And keep in mind, with so little rubber on this track, lining up directly over those 2 streaks of rubber laid down during the burnout is absolutely critical here at the Empire Nationals. Kerry in the near lane. Hill in the far lane. Great start for both cars. Spoiling the hides in the near lane is Kerry, but he keeps his foot in it. It won't be enough. It's Eddie Hill.
Eddie Hill with a 5:29, 263.15 miles per hour. This sets up one half of what could be a great final leg. Hill is on a roll. Let's take a look at it one more time as you see Kerry going up in smoke, and that's really the entire story.
As always, the Happy Crew. Had you set it up to run another 20, or were you looking for more?
We were looking for more than that. We actually stepped on it a little bit, so if it softened up, that was not a planned maneuver.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the other half then.
Yeah, really. I hope Snowman slows down a little.
All Texas final, huh?
Oh, I hope so. Won't that be neat?
We'll see you there.
All right, see you. Thank you.
Eddie Hill's wife, Percy, a big part of her crew wherever he goes. Now let's see if we'll get that All-Texas final. Here is the man who has led this class all weekend long, put a 1/10 of a second on everybody in qualifying, and has been unstoppable. This is Gene, the Snowman Snow. He'll be going up against Paul Smith. There is Smith. His boss, Chuck Etchels, is in the Nitro Funny Car final. Let's see if Smith can make it a team sweep.
Well, Smith needs to find exactly 0.08 of a second someplace. He ran a 5:30 in the most previous round. Snow slowed, and I say slowed, to a 5:22 because, remember, he qualified with a 5:19.
The right lane contains Gene Snow, and it has been the faster all the way through our eliminations. And once again, we have tire smoke in the left lane. Paul Smith is out of it. Gene Snow will make it an All-Texas final.
Oh, look at that. 5:12. Are you believing that? 5.12, 269 miles per hour.
And he will let it hang out from the lane of his choice, will Gene Snow. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't take that left pit side lane.